Hi, I'm Lordin, half of the Persimmon Collective, and this is the third devlog for my cozy fishing game with realistic crew physics, inspired by Toem and Animal Crossing. For this month's devlog, I worked on making a proper level for my game. I mapped a level layout and I modeled a lot of new props such as foliage, more trees, objects and more. I also implemented my first real quest that will allow the player to fix the broken bridge to the right. This quest will grant you access to a hill with a beautiful waterfall that contains the newly added salmon with the currents modifier. Finally, I also started working on the new inventory system. However, this system is not in the game's main loop for now and will be implemented in the next devlog. For this month, I'm finally starting to have an early prototype of my vertical slice and I'm really happy about it. Now let's get into it. First of all, it was time to get rid of the old model and replace it with the shiny new one crafted by Skygirl. Ah, much better. This frog is now looking nice and sleek with a nice toon shader. As I'm writing this script, we are currently working on the idle and walk animations as well as the facial expressions, so stay tuned for some updates on our blue sky. Before working on the level design, I had to create a lot more models to block out our level. I started to work on foliage by drawing sprites in Medibang paint. I painted grass blades, assembled them to make grass tiles, and then slapped a nice shader to make it more lively. I then proceeded to create more bushes of different types. Whenever I went to the forest, I always saw these tiny purple flowers, and now I finally know what they are. Wall geraniums. This will be a perfect addition to my game. Finally, since our level contains maple trees, I drew some maple and oak leaves and assembled them into these small leaf piles. My fudge work is now complete, and I ended up not using them a lot in the final level design as I struggled placing them. But you know what? It's okay, and I'm still learning and experimenting. I then went on to model the first objects. For the train station where I start from, I just added simple cubes for the platform, but modeled a nice looking office as well as a small mailbox. I think it might be cute to receive mail from the NPCs from this world, so I'm keeping this idea in the back of my head. Next to the train station, I modeled a small stand for the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper will be the character that will sell you hook upgrades and more in exchange for money you gain by selling your fishes. I made a small direction sign that will point you to both lakes. I modeled a log container next to Hannah, the local carpenter's house, and finally added pine trees for the upper part of the level. I learned a lot with Blender this month and I'm very proud of my progress. I'm starting to get a better grasp of the techniques, modifiers and more I need to make fast blockout models. With the modeling part done, let me tell you more about the forest level. You go out from the train by stepping on the platform. The train is your main way of locomotion and you will see a similar platform with maybe some little props variation all the time. At the train station, you'll be able to talk to the conductor. He will talk to you about the local area as well as provide some helpful tips and tricks in case you need them. Then, as you step out of the station, you will see the local shopkeeper as I spoke about it earlier. To your right, you will be greeted by Hannah, the local carpenter of the region. She needs help fixing the broken bridge at the right and she will give you your first NPC quest. Collect 3 moss and 2 branches to help her consolidate the new bridge. To get these materials, you need to head north where you will see the main lake. This lake will provide you with largemouth bosses, gudgeon, mosses and branches. With the fixed bridge, you can now traverse to the top of the forest onto the hill where there is a small waterfall. This waterfall goes down the hill and is the first obstacle salmon needs to face to join their breeding grounds. You will also be able to get rocks and pebbles in those shallow waters, but watch out for the currents that will hinder your movements. Finally, to the left is the house of a fish connoisseur who is looking to collect rare fishes. This small level is still a work in progress, and the placement may or may not look like that at all in the final game, but this allowed me to have a foundation on which to build upon. Ideally, I would like to separate the lake area by adding a smaller puddle where you find gudgeons and mosses only next to Hannah's house, but for now, this is looking nice. Now let's talk a little bit about code and how I implemented the salmons. First of all, I had to change how we design movement a little bit, since we have a different type of behavior from the two other fishes that were already there. I created a main class that would contain a fish's speed, time between changing directions, and other utility functions. That way, I could create more swimming behaviors on top of the base class and regroup the useful information only. The salmon's main mechanic is that it will always go against the current. If the current goes to the right, then the salmon tries to go to the left. For the hook, it will be pushed in the same direction as the current. To add a visual cue to the direction, I added a cute little wind-like effect by using a tutorial by Henejo, by using Unity's particle system. As you may have seen with this footage, I also completely redid the lake's background, as well as added a new background for the waterfall. I spent a lot of time looking at underwater footage to give a nice representation of what it looks like. I added more plants to the lake area to make it look more alive. In the future, I would like to animate some background elements using hand-drawn animations or shaders, but I had to make sure that too much animations or color contrast don't hinder the fish's visibility. For the currents area, I saw that a lot of videos were showing this pebble-like landscape, so I tried to replicate that. I even added a shallow water lighting effect, which I think looks quite nice. With all of this, my level design for this month was complete. It was time to work on the next feature, the inventory system. Whenever I played board games or video games, I love having tight rules about managing your resources, as I find it very fun and rewarding when you master optimization. I really like the inventory system in Subnautica, as it made me think a lot more about traveling and stocking loot whenever I explore the cave, be it via swimming or with vehicles. I guess I must be a masochist, or maybe I enjoyed the Tetris World Record video by summoning Solta a bit too much because, haha, this system may be in the final game. What? It's not like the game had a long time card, so why not spice it up, you know? You thought this was in the cozy category? Welcome to Factorio! Well, just kidding. I just thought it was a fun addition. You'll see later in the development that I had a lot in mind in terms of going back and forth, buying upgrades, and managing your inventory and what you catch for quests. I think this will bring me some balancing issues, but it will be fun to see casual players or speedrunners scratch that itch. Let me know in the comments what you think. Anyway, for the actual system implementation. First, I created a grid system inspired by CodeMonkey's tutorials about all sorts of grid implementations for your game. Then, I created a grid builder that would both create the visual grid as well as manage all of the objects inside it by adding them to the class. Each of the fishes and resources contain a component called the grid item that will dictate what type of item they are as well as their sizes. And finally we have the moving and rotating part. And oh boy was it hard to make. Actual movement and rotation wasn't that bad, but the problem was trying to calculate if you could place the actual item in your inventory. When you rotate 90 degrees, your object slightly moves in terms of spacing. Also, the object's width and height changes, so I had to take all of that into my calculations, and after a headache or two, I finally managed to do it. As you can see, I also added a small color system to show the player if they can place the object or not. To finish this feature, I still need to actually connect it to the game's UI, as well as the actual real inventory, and add some animated movement. But this will be for the next devlog. Thank you so much for watching this month's devlog. Before talking about what I have in plans for the next devlog, I have two announcements. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Orphic Pearl for being my first Patreon. Check out her Twitch channel and her Blue Sky if you can. She is learning to make music and currently learning Godot, so I hope it goes well. I will put the links in the descriptions as always. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to this channel and our Patreon. Also, I recently got a contract to work on a game for my school, so I will try to keep up with the devlogs, but they may have less content. However, now that I have a lot of features done, I want to focus a little bit more into producing assets, so I'll be able to show more visual stuff. The game is starting to look coherent and I'm very happy. Next month, I will work on more modeling for the vertical slice, the inventory system, and finally the shop and the first hook upgrades. See you next month!